Hi, welcome to Figma responsive design tutorial. Today we are going to learn how to make this landing page fully responsive so it will work on tablet, smaller devices and bigger devices like desktop. So let's start. By the way, if you want to learn how I designed this landing page, you can find the link in the description below where I show the step-by-step process to create and design this amazing and beautiful landing page. Okay, so press the Z key and let's drag and focus the header area first. Let's start from the top section and let's select these three items and press Shift A on the keyboard to create auto layout. Now let's rename the frame to container. Now let's create again auto layout. So press Shift A again and remove padding top and bottom. Figma by default add this. Okay, let's leave it hug for right now, both vertical and horizontal, and let's rename this header section. So this is basically a main section and inside the section there is container. It's time to work on the hero section. First select the left side these items and convert it to auto layout. Let's rename this to copy container. Again convert it to auto layout and let's call this left column. Now select the image and convert it to auto layout. Now let's call this one right column. Select both left and right column and convert it to auto layout. Call this main container and again convert it to auto layout. Let's call this section a hero. Let's remove left and right padding and leave it hug for right now. So this is our header and the hero section. It's time to work on the top category section. So first we need to select this card and convert it to auto layout. Let's call this one cards container. Select with the title and again convert it to auto layout. Let's call this one container, main container. Convert it to auto layout for the section and let's call this one categories. Remove padding and leave the hug. So now to work on this content section. So let's start. First we need to select these three items and convert it to auto layout and let's call this one copy dash container. Okay, now let's select the image, right click or maybe use shortcut Shift A and convert this one to right container. Now let's select copy container and convert it again to container. Let's call this one left column. Rename this one to right column. Okay, let's remove the padding and let's remove the padding from this one. Okay, now let's select both item and convert it to auto layout. This time this is our container and again convert it to for the section. So let's remove the padding from this one and let's call this section content and this is the structure. So content, this is basically the section, this is container, and inside the container this one is left column and this one is right column. Now let's move to our process section. So here we just need to select all these items and convert it to auto layout. So let's call this one steps container. Inside steps container let's select dotted line and we will use absolute position. So let's select this one and drag it to here. Same for the second line, let's use absolute position and let's place it here. So this is our steps container. Now select both the steps container and the title, convert it to auto layout. This one is called container and again convert it to auto layout. Remove padding and this is basically the section, so we will call this section's process. So this is our process. This is basically content and categories, hero section and header section. Now let's work on review section. So for this section let's select convert it to auto layout. So this is not basically what we want, so select this section and make it absolute position. Now let's bring it here and let's position it. Press option key and let's align it 40 by 40. Okay, now let's select these user, create absolute position, bring it here. Okay, and let's call this one. Now let's image, let's call this one image red rectangle. Okay, let's first convert this to auto layout and let's call this one user dash info. This one is called stars and this is text, this comma and title. Let's select the right side, convert it to auto layout. This is not what we expecting. Let's use the proper spacing like 32 and let's select column and let's select the comma and create absolute position. Now let's bring this back something like this. So we have to manually position this and same in the CSS. So this is actually absolute position work. Now select the right side and call this right column and this one is image and let's again convert the image frame and let's call this one is left column. Now let's remove the padding from both sides and select the both left and right column, convert it to auto layout and let's make this one is to container. So this is our container. Now let's convert it again to auto layout, and so for this section we will call this one is customer reviews or maybe just reviews. Remove left right padding and top and bottom padding. Hug is fine, and this is our review section. So let's expand this. This is basically section, container, and inside container this left column, right column. Now let's work on the CTA section. So for this section, if we can review, so this is just a regular frame and inside frame here is an auto layout. Let's rename this and we'll call this inside copy container. This is a CTA container. Also let's convert it to auto layout, this main frame. Let's select hug. So instead of hug we will use fixed width and let's type 1180. Okay, now let's select both frame and image, convert it to auto layout and now let's select image and make it absolute position. Now let's bring it to the center, something like this. Let's rename this and this is called container and again convert it to section layout. So now let's rename this to CTA section, remove padding and leave it hug for right now. Okay, so now let's work on the footer. So now select these two items and convert it to auto layout. Let's call this frame and this one let's make it to auto width. Select both and convert it to auto layout. Call this one should be container. Okay, and this one should be social links. Now let's select these and convert it to auto. Let's call this one. Now let's select this one and convert it to auto layout and this one should be container. Again convert it to section layout. So this section is called footer. Let's remove the padding. So our layout is ready for responsive, and we have already cleaned out the layout. We have converted each and everything to auto layout and organize it by sections. So now it's easy for us to make it fully responsive. So the first thing, we need to select this master frame and convert it to auto layout. Now let's add some spacing so that the changes which we made will be easy for us. So let's make it 100. Okay, so after adding spacing to each sections, we can start from the first section. Select this frame. This is the master frame. Now let's make it 96, padding from left and right. Okay, and now let's select this section and make it fill container. Let's select this section and make fill container, and inside the spacing let's make it auto. Now let's go to the hero section, and inside the hero let's make it fill container. Now let's select the container and make it fill. Change the property to auto. Now let's select inside the left column and make it fill container. Now inside the copy container, make it fill container. For the text, let's use, instead of fixed, we will make it fill container. For the paragraph, let's make it fill container. Leave the CTA to hug. Okay, so now after changing the properties of all these fixed to the fill, for the right side, let's make it fill container, and for the image, let's make it fill, and change from crop to fit. Okay, also let's check this container, make it fill, and for the container it's auto. Now let's check, is it responsive or not. Okay, now let's do one thing. Instead of fixed, we will make it fill. This one should be fixed, the master, and this one should be fill container. Okay, now let's see, it's working. Now let's go to this section, make it fill container, and for this section also make it fill container, but master add fading of 96 each side and make it fill. And for the grid, make it wrap. Now let's check, it's need to be fixed with, so let's make it fixed. Let's make the height to 32. Now horizontally and vertically gap is 32. Now let's check, yeah, it's working. Now let's make the content section responsive. So first we need to select the content section and make it fill. Now let's add 96 from both sides fading, and let's make this center. Let's make this fill, and now let's select the left column, make it fill. Select content copy and make it fill. For the title, let's make it fill, and text also need to be filled. Button, we will leave it to the hug. And now select the right column and make it fill. Image need to be fill container and fill from both sides. Let's make it fit. Now let's check, it's responsive and working fine. Okay, now let's move to the process section and make it responsive. First we need to select section and make it fill container. Now, and also let's add 96 padding from both sides. Select main container and make it fill. Now select this child card section and make it, let's make it 32 and 32. Also let's make it center. Okay, and for each card let's make it fixed with. Okay, let's see, yeah, it's working. Now let's work on the customer review section. Make it fill container 96 fading from both sides, and inside container let's make it fill container. Text need to be fill. Reviews, let's leave it hug, and for the user also leave it hug. Yeah, it's working. Now let's make this section to fill, so it will not work. Let's see if we make it 96, and let's make this one to fill. Let's make it to fill. Okay, let's select this and make it. Let's leave it hug. And for the image, let's select image and make it. Okay, yeah, the image is not inside the frame. So let's see if we can make it scale with this position, and also the image need to be fit. So let's see, it's working. Okay, so let's work on the footer. So let's select footer section, make it fill container. Now let's add left and right padding 96, and let's select the container, make it fill container. Okay, now let's select the top section and make it fill container. Select the left column and make it fill container. Now select content, make it fill. Select text, make it fill, and the logo is hug fine. Okay, now let's select the right column, make it fill container. Inside the right, let's select the menu, make it hug. Okay, inside the menu, let's choose this one and make it fill. About, let's make it fill container. Okay, let's remove and make it auto. So let's see, make this one auto. Now let's select this one and make it fill container. The text and make it fill. This one is also fill. Let's make it fill container, and both are fill. Okay, now let's check this spacing. So let's see. Okay, this one is auto. Let's add 32 pixel. I think we can add 64. For the social, let's select this one and make it fill. This one is hug fine, and make this one is fill container. Let's try 96 to make it tight. This one is auto fine. Okay, so this is the footer. Let's remove the top and bottom space. And 120, I think. Let's try 96 for each section. Okay, so the benefit of converting mainframe to auto layout is now we can just select one section and move up and down without distracting. So this is the plus point of making the mainframe to auto layout. I think we need to increase the size, so let's make it 28. Let's, for the bottom, let's try 22 at the bottom, so it's not touching the edge. Now it's fully responsive, as we can see. Now let's make the tablet version and then the mobile version. So first we need to rename this to desktop. Now let's duplicate this with Command D. Let's select the iPad version, the mini iPad Pro 11, and the first thing we need to make it hug content, so it's automatically go to the content. Okay, now let's rename this and call this iPad. Okay, first we need to reduce the fading, so let's make it 64, and let's select container and make it vertical layout, and let's bring it to the top. So first the image, then the typography. Okay, so this section is automatically resized as we select the wrap option, so it's automatically resize, but let's reduce the padding to 64. Okay, so for this section let's first reduce the padding to 64, and now select the container, make it vertical so the image should be the top. Okay, I think inside the spacing let's make it 64. For this text I think it's fine. So now let's move to this section. Okay, so let's remove and make it 64, and as we can see it's now showing to this layout. I think we need the process should be, so let's make it 96. I like this top to bottom. I think in iPad we don't need these dotted lines, so let's remove this. So this is output process. Let's see, 32 is fine. So output process. Now let's go to this section and let's make it 64 padding, and same for the layout, make it vertical. For this section let's make it fill, and for the image let's make it fill, and this is absolute, so let's make it something like this. Okay, so let's make this one 64 or maybe 96. So this is our review section. Now let's go to this section. Make it fill. Okay, I think we need to reduce. Let's make it 64 padding for the left container and for the image. So let's make the image something like this. Font size is fine, and the 36 is also fine. I think for the whole layout let's reduce the spacing up gap to 96. So now the section is slightly tight. Okay, so for the footer let's select top section and make it vertical, something like this, and I think it's looking perfect. Let's check this section and let's make it to 64, and let's make it executive collection. Okay, so it will look like this. Now it's looking perfect. So this is our tablet version, so let's see if it is responsive. Yeah, it's fully responsive as we can see, and I think yeah, the image is also responsive. Okay, so let's make this one is to fill, and the image is also filled. So let's see, yeah, it's responsive now. So this is the iPad version, tablet. So we have completed the desktop version and the tablet version, and both are responsive as we can see. And now it's time to create the phone version. So let's duplicate the tablet version and let's select iPhone 13 mini 375. So let's select this viewport size, and let's make this one is hug content. So the first thing we need for the padding, let's use 24, and inside the nav container let's remove this one. Let's copy this frame, let's copy this hamburger menu icon which I have already created, and let's paste to replace, and I think we don't need, we will place it inside the hamburger menu. So now the header part is done. Okay, so let's check for the image. I think let's reduce this space to 32, and image is fine. Okay, so now let's reduce the size of this text, so make it 15 or maybe 14, and for the title let's use 32, and for the text 16 is fine. I think let's make it 36. Okay, so this is h1, and this is text. Okay, so for the CTA section let's make it vertical, change the property to fill container, Let's make this one to fill container and also from hug to fill container. Let's make it to hug. Change this one to fill container and right column is fixed. So let's change manually. Okay, now let's make this space to 64. Select the title, so this is h2, so let's make it 24. I think 24 is fine. Okay, so let's reduce the padding to 24 and let's make this one to 32. For this section, for the top and bottom padding, let's try 32. So I think let's make it 64. Yeah, 64 is fine, so let's use 64. So the next is, now let's update this one to 24. Let's make it 24. Let's try 32. Let's make it fill container. Inside the image is fill and it's fit. So let's make it a hug. This is also h2, so let's try 24 and let's make it food for any time. Okay, and instead of, let's try 32. For the button, let's make it fill container. Let's try hug. Okay, so now let's select, first we need to update the section, so let's make it 64. Sorry, 24 and select the title and make it 24. So the h2 is 24 and make it fill container. Now let's see for the boxes. So the 32 is, let's make it 24 and 24. So now let's go to this section. Let's try first update padding, left right padding, and now let's change the absolute position. This is also fixed to it, so lift container. Let's select the avatar and place it here. Now let's check the padding, so let's try 64. For customer reviews, let's make it h2, and for this text let's try 20. I think 20 is looking good. Select this absolute position up. Okay, so let's make it center. For this, let's try 24. I think we could try and make it center line. So far so good. This is looking perfect. Let's see if it's responsive. Yeah, it's responsive. Okay, and now let's select this section. First we need to update padding, and now let's select section and let's change this title to 24. Let's make it to the fill container. Let's make it 64 and 64. Okay, so let's select. Okay, so let's make it center line, and I think this don't need to be a frame, so let's convert it to auto layout and let's reduce the size to 24. And for the spacing, let's try 16 by 16 to add some fading. Okay, this one also need to be, let's try 24. And for the padding, let's add 16 by 16. Okay, let's try 32. Okay, so for the image, let's press the option key and reduce the empty space. Let's copy this and paste it again inside container, and let's bring it to the top. Let's make it to the fill container, and also fill container, let's make the size to fit. Okay, I think let's try absolute position, and for the top one, let's try 100. I think let's try 200, 150. Yeah, so this is our CTA section, and let's see, yeah, fill, and now it's fully responsive. Okay, so now let's select the main container, and instead of fixed, let's use hug content. Okay, now let's go to footer, and for the footer, let's first remove the fading to 24, and for this section, let's try to make it center. Okay, so inside the left column, yeah, let's try to make it center. For the text, I think let's leave it like this to the left side align, and now let's remove these links, select these links, and now let's make it 32, and let's reduce the size to, I think 16 is fine, so let's use 16. And I have already created this icon, so just copy this icon and let's place it here, and select link and make it horizontal. Now let's select this one and make it horizontal, and this one. So this is now responsive, and let's see, it's fully responsive and working. Yeah, everything is set to fill. So when we stretch the viewport, so it will respond to the viewport, and this is it.